ask us or talk to us about. And so those questions can be added to. But we wanted to save on time, since we only have a minimum now of less than 2 hours, given that we were waiting around for others to join in. So look at the questions, and if they are questions that you came to this meeting with, then that's fine. If there are additional questions that you have, then I'm going to ask you to use the chat feature that is on your device as it relates to the Zoom platform, and to just send the questions to me privately. So you'll see my name again, Sandra Lichmore. Sometimes you will see me live, sometimes my video will be off, but you will see a picture looking similar to how I look, I hope. But let me get a PowerPoint, and so you can have a chance to consider the questions and pose others by just sending them through to me. It's just to help us to manage the flow, and in the event there are too many questions, then we're not missing someone by focusing too long on another person. Okay, so here we go again with the screen sharing, and then I will return at about 25 past and introduce our guest this evening. So here goes the first question. Take a note of that. And if it's something that you already have, then check. Glad to know that we are thinking along the line that you are. So wait until all questions, we go through all of them, and then you can then add if it's not there. Here comes number 2. I am mindful that somebody may not be able to see the screen properly. Maybe your glasses are not with you just now, so allow me to read along with the questions. So question number 2 is asking, how can I access these grants and loans, and is there a time frame to do so? Check that one if you had that in mind. And if there is a secondary question, meaning having asked this question, something goes off, then note it down. It may already be in the bank of questions, but you never know. Just to note it down so you can return to it later. Here comes number 3. How will I know which package is available or suitable for me, and can I claim or apply for more than one? I'm sorry for the arrow missing out the 4, but it's that's the word that should have been there. How can I claim or apply for more than one of those grants or loans available? Give you a moment to check it and any secondary question. Let's go to 4. Now 4, this is here because 4, the question that is coming after relates to this. So the Chancellor, Mr. Snack, the update that was sent to me, nature of my role means I'm getting update directly from key government individuals. So this was sent about the update of where they're going with this. So the coronavirus job retention scheme has been extended by 1 month to reflect continuing social distancing measures. Following on from yesterday's announcement to keep the social distancing measures in place, Rishi Sunak said the coronavirus job retention scheme would now be open until the end of June. The scheme, which allows firms, we'll say companies, workplaces to furlough employees with the government paying cash grants of 80% of their wages up to a maximum of 2,500, which was originally open for 3 months and backdated from the 1st of March to the end of April. Here comes some good news. However, the Chancellor said he would keep the scheme under review and extend it if necessary. So wait for the question. Here it comes now. Here it comes. So the question that is being posed is, what does it mean to be furloughed by your employer? What does it mean to be furloughed by your employer? Okay, let's get a move on. If there is a secondary question to that then please, for those who are just joining, please note it down, but wait till we get to the last set of questions before you add anything else, just in case we thought about that one for you. So here comes question 5. What support is in place for my family? And sorry again for this, I'll correct it in a little while, where I am not working, or I think it meant to say where I wasn't working before the lockdown period. So what support is in place for my family and I where I was not working before the lockdown period? I will amend that question. Apologies again for that. So if there's a secondary question on the back of that, then please note that down. And let's go to 6. And number 6, I see what I did. Sorry for the human error. I think I started typing it and then I kind of got distracted. So sorry about that. So the question really, as it is now, and it should be 5, is what support is in place for my family and I if I have never had a job before the lockdown was enforced? I was trying to better my my question, so sorry for that. I will delete that slide in a minute. Anything on the back of that, feel free to add to that. Okay, here comes another question. And question 7 now is asking, what support is the credit union prepared to give? What support is the credit union? And our representatives are here, and I'm sure they will be able to speak for themselves. And I guess this is probably where secondary questions are going to come based on what Elaine and Shane will share with us this afternoon. But preempt, if you want to preempt something, you know, a secondary question, then go ahead and do so, all right? And then I believe this is the last one. And it says, what tips or advice can you give us during this time of uncertainty? And that's going to be one, again, posed to the credit union representatives. And I myself will just leave you with a few quick tips, especially if you're on this Zoom platform and you work in the education sector like myself, especially if you are self-employed in that field, then there are a few things that I would just quickly share as consolation, but also to just comfort where there is this challenge that is at our doorstep. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to now, having seen the 7 questions, it is 7 because there's a spoiler in the midst in terms of one of the PowerPoints. So having seen those 7 questions, if there are additional questions that have not been featured on the slide, Then I'm going to ask you, as I instructed before, to write that down, type that down on the chat using the chat feature icon or app on the Zoom platform, and then I can pick that up and add it to the discussion. If in answering the questions posed to our credit union representatives and additional questions come into play, then I'm going to ask you to still note them down, but as the instruction was given earlier, let's go back to that first slide. I'm going to ask you to mute your mics, but at the same time, as you would have had your mic on mute, and I can try and manage it from my end as well, I was asking that you use the thumbs up symbol when you would like, when you have a question that you want to pose directly. To manage the time, again, as I said, would love if the questions happen before, if the questions come in before, by sending them through chat, but if not possible, then I understand, because it may not be there at the time, but just something that was said. Okay, so I think we're good to go. I'm going to remove the sharing feature, and then I'm going to engage directly now with Elaine and Shane, who are representing the credit union, okay, as we try to unpack the relief support, financial relief support that is given. Okay, Elaine and Shane, I want to welcome you to our first, I'm saying first because I believe there is going to be a part 2, our first meeting as we unpack what relief support, financial relief support has been put in place by our Chancellor stroke government. And I am therefore going to ask, as a quick introduction, without going too detailedly into areas that will be covered in the question, just to introduce yourself. Who are you? Credit Union Bank, 2 minutes, and then we can then take the questions that were posed. Over to you, Elaine.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Can I just first of all thank you very much for inviting us. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to talk to people, and those of you there that may be our members, to have a conversation with you about what's going on in this awful time, and how PCU is positioning itself, and also why we're able to make some contribution in terms of talking about the government packages, because we're trying to keep on top of it. You know, it's changing every day. I wouldn't say that we're experts, but yeah, we know a little bit about it, and we're happy to share and ask questions. What I can't answer, I'll say I can't answer, but I can get back to you with the answer. So can I also just say that Shane is here, but Shane, I believe Shane has to leave. He has a train to catch, he's got another appointment, but when he heard that this was happening, he said he would join in. So I would ask Shane at certain points to come in if he's still here. And just one other correction I need to make is that we're not a bank. We're a credit union. Love to be a bank, but we're not a bank. We're a credit union. And I am head of marketing and communications at the Pentecostal Credit Union.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I stand corrected. But I would love to see the progression happen personally.
Yes.
I'm sure others of your members or your clients would love to see you progress. I believe you have recently celebrated 40 years or so.
Well, actually, we haven't celebrated it yet.
Okay.
We had to stop. I mean, what was happening is, this year, we are 40 years old. We are one of the oldest credit unions in the country. We were established in 1980, so we're 40 years old this year. So we had planned to celebrate 40 years with really quite a big bang. You know, we had quite a few things planned going forward. But of course, all of this happened, and we had to postpone, I say, because we will be celebrating again when this is over. But currently, of course, COVID-19 is our priority and everybody else's priority. So we're not talking about parties and celebrations right now. But when we are settled and back in the swing of things, we absolutely will be celebrating what is a tremendous legacy, really, actually. We haven't got time to talk about it. I wish I could. But
That's okay.
Proud, you know, to have this legacy. So 40 years old, yes, this is our 40th year. This is our 40th birthday.
Excellent. So it's time to do a crossing over from union to bank. Come on. Okay, right. So let's go, Elaine. If Shane is still around, make yourself known, Shane, by sending me a thumbs up. Just get that icon up, and then what I'll do is just pause so that you can tell us a little bit about yourself. And in the event you're not able to contribute to the conversation, the big financial talk amongst God's people and those who have joined in from the community outside the church community, those who are looking to get on, you know, we want to hear from you if you're still here. If not, understandably so, you have another meeting and we'll need to get there on time. So Elaine, if I go back then to the question, the first question that was posed, and I'm going to go back and share my screen so that those who have joined us, and again, welcome. I am so glad that you're able to set aside this time and to be a part of what this big, the big conversation as it relates to the relief, financial relief package, support package that the government has put in place for all to access. Let me just go back and refresh our memory as to what the questions were. First one up, bear with me as I just transition to that. Okay, here it goes. So question one, Elaine, what grants or loans are available to those who are business owners, including those who are self-employed? Talk us through the package that's currently available, please.
Right. Well, there is a fair amount available, actually, and as you know, things are changing every day. This is the most up-to-date information we have from around the 14th of April, but there are both grants and loans available to small business owners, small and large businesses actually, but the large businesses, those with over 45 million. So I'm going to focus on so-called small businesses and people who are self-employed. So let's deal with the grants first of all. The good news is that there are grants available for, there's first of all a rate relief. That is a 12-month holiday for businesses, for those businesses in the leisure, retail and hospitality business that pay business rates. There is a relief, a holiday, really, it's called business rate relief, but it's a holiday of 12 months. So you won't have to pay your rates in this year, 2020/2021. Then there are two other grants that you would get via the local authority. The money's coming from the government, but it's distributed via the local authority. And there is a small grant for businesses that don't either pay very little rates or no rates at all. And that grant is £10,000. And there's a larger grant of £25,000 for, again, the retail, leisure and hospitality people in those industries, business owners in those industries. So if you're a hairdresser and, you know, you're a restaurant owner, those kinds of businesses, you know, we're walking around and we're seeing all these shops are closed. There is a grant available of up to £25,000 for those businesses. This grant comes from the local authority. You don't have to apply for it. The local authority knows who the businesses are that are eligible. They are paying out checks now, I understand, actually. Some of our members have had checks from their local authorities, or had the grants, not checks, but had the grants from their local authorities. If you feel that you are eligible and you haven't had anything from your local authority, it would be worth just giving them a call to see what's happening. Some are quicker than others, but they are the grants that are available. And then there is, people have heard about this, the Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme. This is a loan. People call it CBILS. If you hear the term CBILS, CBILS, that's what it is. And this is where the government bank, the business, the business bank are providing for loans. Well, what the government are doing is they are underwriting loans, or they're guaranteeing these loans up to 80% of these loans that are available via commercial banks. There are 40 banks. All the high street banks are part of the process, but there are 40 banks participating in the scheme. And what you can do is you can apply for a loan, provided your turnover is less than 45 million. You can apply for a loan. You have to make the application to one of these banks of up to £5 million. The loan is interest-free for the first 12 months, but then after that 12 months, you then have to pay interest at the bank's, sort of business rates, their business lending interest rates. But those loans are available. And of course, there are for the self-employed, there are, and also for business owners, there are various deferment schemes in relation to paying your tax and paying your VAT. And there is also a scheme for self-employed people called the Self-Employment Income Support Scheme, where HMRC will, and they will do the calculations if you're eligible, and they will tell you if you are. Yeah. They will pay, I think they calculate the average or the mean of your profits over the last 3 tax years, and they will pay 80% of those profits up to £2,500. Again, you don't have to apply for that. The taxman will get in touch with you, and it's our understanding that that's not going to come on stream till around June time.
Okay.
So they are the big ones, and of course, self-employed people who are not eligible for those schemes can also claim universal credit. And I will talk about universal credit a bit later, but I think they're the chief ones. They're the ones we know about.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for unpacking that one. I haven't seen any indication of questions additional to what you have shared with us, but you mentioned something about 3 years. I may have missed that. I'm busy checking to see if I am seeing any messages or questions posed. But the 3 years, you said going back to 3 years, what would business owners need to have? What would they need to be ready to present as any evidence called upon for the HMRC? Or would HMRC already have that data?
HMRC already has that data,
okay,
because it's about your tax returns
right
for those years. So they will know, and remember, they're going to be getting in touch with you. So they will know if you can apply for it. You still have to make the application, I understand, but they know, because they would have expected to have those. I mean, you have to be up to speed, up to date with your in your tax affairs, and they will have your tax returns for those years and be able to tell you if you are eligible for the scheme. I believe that if your profits are over 50,000,
yes,
it may not be something like that. I think there's something about a £50,000 ceiling for profits, but if that's not the case, then you should be.
Okay. You again going back to the 3 years. I know you said the tax return, but are they going to be, because with the tax return doesn't necessarily mean that you're submitting year-end accounts to them. This is something that you kind of keep locked away. Would they? Was there anything that was said that you would need to perchance have those ready?
I don't know about
Mhm.
that. I haven't seen anything that has said that, but it would always be helpful. It's going to be useful always for me to
Mhm.
be ready for that. I don't know what questions they may ask in the actual application,
Mhm.
because I don't think that is ready yet. So
Mhm.
they may well ask you.
Yes.
What
No, the
questions
application
then
personally, I
ask.
haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just checking. Let me just check to see if there's any additional questions that were posed. No, I haven't seen anything additional. So it's telling me that you've done a fantastic job, Elaine, in answering that question. But who knows, we may be able to come back to that later on in terms of a follow-up. Okay.
Yeah.
So good to leave that one. And we're going to now try and address question. Let me just check this one moment. There's a chat coming. Hold a while. Yes, something has flagged up. Let's see what he's saying. Question is being asked here,
Mhm.
Elaine, about is there anything for the gig economy?
Yes, yes. The gig economy, for those of you who don't know, the gig economy are people, freelancers, people
Mm-hmm.
who might be working on short-term contracts. They are normally self-employed people. You know, they are brought in by a company, maybe to do a piece of work. So if you are in the gig economy and you are self-employed, the self-employed provisions will be available to you. Of course, there is also universal credit. If you are self-employed, you can also apply if you need to, there is not enough coming in because of what's happened in
Yeah,
relation to this, you can also apply for universal credit. And universal credit is available to people who earn less than £16,000.
that's
I
right.
believe it is. And yeah, it's the new benefit that wraps up all the other benefits that used to be, housing benefit and all the other benefits that used to be.
Yes, so it's 16,000 and a bit.
Yes.
16,100 and something and a bit. Yeah, you need
Yeah.
to be earning. But come back to the universal credit. Is there a ceiling in terms of how much would that be? What's the highest amount that one would then be able to get from that?
Well, universal credit is means tested.
Mm-hmm.
So that will mean that depending on what your circumstances are,
Mm-hmm.
there'll be different, they're different amounts. But I understand that there was an income ceiling that I
Mm-hmm.
understand has now been removed. I
Right.
don't know what that was, but I understand that this income ceiling has been removed. So that is, and that was to ensure that self-employed people could get access to that. They have also, I understand, increased the level of housing subsidy. So the amount of money that you would get for the housing element of the benefit has been increased substantially. But as a means tested benefit, it will be different. Different people will get different things. You can, if you are in real dire straits, apply for a loan. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the loan is up to £100 in universal credit. That you have to pay it back, but it's interest free. But you'll have to pay back your
Couldn't
benefit.
you leave that bit out?
Yeah, yeah, you've got to pay it back. But of course, the problem is that they are overwhelmed at the moment with
Mhm.
applications. I think they've had something like 1 million extra applications in
Wow.
the last 4 weeks. So they are overwhelmed, and the system is straining.
Yeah.
I think they're managing very, very well, but they are stressed with it. And so, people, I think we really need to be patient, although it's a difficult time.
Okay.
But it is available.
Excellent. Good. So what then, Elaine? Because for me, I'm listening to timeline as I listen to the updates,
Mm.
um, and then also listening to cutoff numbers. Was there any? Because personally, for me, I have not seen in any of the information out there that there is a cutoff number. Is it likely to run out? Or
What,
should I
the
be
money?
calling Mr. Snack to this conversation next time we do it?
I
Is
think
it likely to run out?
I can't tell you if the money's going. I hope not. I hope not. No, no. I'm sure it won't. I'm sure. Well, they, the government knows. I mean,
Yeah,
they have a budget, don't they? For so
yeah.
lots of these, there is a budget. Apart from the loans, for the grants and for the other things that are going on, they will tell you they've made 350 million available or
Mm-hmm.
750 million available. So they have their budget. So.
Yeah.
I mean, the challenge for everyone really
Mm-hmm.
is, and will be for the government, is how long this goes on for. And
Yes.
and one thing that they have said at when you read through what is available at the end of everything they've said on the government website is that they will review and extend if necessary. So the fact that Rishi Sunak today has said the job retention scheme will go on for another month is not at all surprising. And he's also said there that, and if necessary, longer. That they're prepared to do that if they need to, and that's important because whatever happens, and I was going to say something about this a bit later, but whatever happens when the lockdown is over and we start to get back to normal, we will not be back to normal for a very long time,
Okay.
and these impacts are going to affect businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Individuals for a very long time. It's not all going to snap right back straight away. Well, it might for some, but for
Yeah,
most people, planning needs to take into account that
exactly.
that there are going to be impacts that are going to be with us for a
Yeah.
long time, and financial impacts that are
Oh,
going to be with us for a long time. Not least the hit on the economy.
yes. So yes, we kind of leave them to worry a bit more about that. That we just
Yes.
need what they got for us,
Yeah.
or what they've set aside for us. But we know that they're looking closely at, potential economic downturn. We have been
Oh
through
yes.
that. We
Yeah.
came out. Some of us came out with benefits, not the benefits offered through the government schemes or system, but meaning, where others may have lost, some of us were able to gain, and then where others lost, we caught up. And what they're now saying is that it's look likely that we will have a bit of a slow start after the virus has said its goodbye. But in the Queen's speech, we will get back up again. Paraphrasing what she said, she
Oh,
didn't
we
say
will.
it exactly,
There's no
but
doubt.
we
I
will
mean,
rise again.
it will.
Here
Yes.
is a good time now for
Yeah.
somebody who knows that poem. I will rise again. If you know
Yes.
that poem and you would like to recite it, I'm going to give you that opportunity at the end. But we will rise, or I will rise again. Stay there, Elaine, with question 1. Sharon is getting ready to read question 2 for me, but stay there with that, because there is a question, a follow-on that has come up, and it says, is there any grant for people who work with the agency in the healthcare system? Is there any grant for people who work with agency in the healthcare system? I probably would want to say, to be honest, Elaine, agencies. So you're talking about the temporary workers, bank
Yes.
staff, and so on.
Yes. Yeah. Now, this is an interesting question. You're
Very.
talking about those people who are who get their work, temporary work, as I said, the
Mhm.
gig economy, from agencies. And I think it really depends on the basis on which you have your arrangement with the agency. If you are self-employed
Mhm.
through the agency, and they recognise you as self-employed, you are responsible for paying your own tax, then the benefits that are for self-employed people will apply to you. If you are not, and you are on the agency's books, and you're like an employer as such, it should be that they should be able to furlough you. But I do know that there are some agencies that are looking into this as to whether or not that actually applies to them.
Yeah.
Because even though they have people on their books, the arrangement that they have with people is that they will provide them with work when they have work. there's no guarantee that there will be work. But the fact is they do keep them on their books, which for me, it means that there should be some kind of furlough available to them. But the truth is, I don't know. And I know that there are agencies who are now looking into this, and someone's looking at this now, because we have some of our members, quite a lot of our members will be tied by that arrangement.
Yes, okay, thank you so much for that. Now we're going to question 2, and Sharon is going to be reading that one. Again, for those who are just joining in, your mics are on mute. We're asking that if you have a question that you would like to ask as a follow-on, we have some questions that we preempted that would be asked, and we have put them on a slide so we can all see them, and reading it as well. So, the clarity is also reached. And just helping you out to not focus on the screen too much. So for health and safety, I'm just going to do what I would do and say to my staff if I'm having this kind of meeting, please do not continually look in at the screen. Okay, do look away for health and safety purposes at times. Okay, so here comes question number 2. Thanks to the person who posed 2 individuals additional questions to number 1. So use the chat to send me any top-up questions to the ones asked, and we'll take it from there. Okay, here it goes now. That's number 2 coming at you. Okay, Sharon.
Oh, hi, Elaine. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Elaine, for taking the time to share with us. Really happy for your knowledge on the subject. Okay, so question 2: how can I access these grants or loans, and is there a time frame to do so?
Well, it depends on what you're going for. So in terms of accessing the grants that I spoke about, there's nothing that you have to do. Your local authority will just pay it out, because they will know what category you come into and how much you should get. But as I said, if you believe that you should be getting one of these grants and you're not, then get in touch with your local authority. But there isn't an application to make for the business grants. For the self-employed scheme, again, HMRC will get in touch with you. So there is no need, there's no application for you to make for that. For universal credit, yes, you must apply for universal credit. You can apply at any time, but it's best to apply as soon as you know that you're going to need it. And you can only make that application online. It's an online application. For the CBILS, the loan scheme for businesses, yes, you need to go to your bank or one of the 40 banks. And if you bank with a high street bank, all the high street banks are on that list. You need to go to that bank and apply for that loan to the bank.
Okay, excellent. I haven't seen any follow-up questions. I don't have one. But Sharon, having read that question for us, is there any follow-up, or she dealt with it, so we can move on to 3?
Yeah, just a quick one. Probably you've mentioned it already. It says it's extended to June, but for the local authority loans, we don't.
Sorry?
The extension to June, I believe that.
Sorry. So for the local authority.
I can't hear
you. Sorry.
I didn't hear.
Okay, Sharon,
Thank you.
I'm going to ask you to type that one, because the connection at your end kind of went a bit
It's
funny.
bad.
Yes. Let's hear you again. Let's hear you again. Talk again.
Right. Oh, yes. My question is, because you've mentioned 2 sets. So you've got the bank section and you've got the local authority, and the third, HMRC will get in touch depending on which category you fall in. Because I heard about this thing about an extension to June, I was thinking, what if somebody, for whatever reason, I don't know if you know this, but I'm just asking, what if someone, for whatever reason, doesn't get in their application by June, or probably wasn't sure if their local authority versus HMRC getting in touch. What do you think people should do? Do you think we should probably check the different authorities, and then whichever, depending on if they say you have to speak to your bank about that, or the local authority will get in touch? What would you advise people to do so as not to miss the deadline?
Well, so the June date is, and I think this is around the furlough scheme. The furlough scheme was going to be available up till the end of May. So the Chancellor of the Exchequer has said that it will now be available up to the end of June for 3 months. He's extending it up to the end of June. So that's for furlough. Now, you can't apply for furlough if you're going to be furloughed unless you're self-employed, because it is your employer who will apply to HMRC to be eligible for furlough for their staff. So they apply, and they will tell you what they're going to do. So they apply for it, and then the money comes from the government through HMRC to you. So that's how the furlough works. With the other schemes, as I said, with the grants, I just repeat, with the grants, you don't need to do anything. The local authority will send those grants, those rates, those grants around your rates, those business rates. They'll get in touch with you. What I did say, however, was that if they haven't, and again, they all work at different paces, but if they haven't and you're concerned about it, then you should get in touch with your local authority. And the loans are just available. I haven't seen a cut-off time for the loans, but clearly if you're a business and you know that you're in trouble or you're likely to be in trouble, then the time to apply for the loan is straight away as soon as you know.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Whilst you're on that point about furlough, it's definitely one of the questions. Might be, I think it's probably the one coming up next. I'm not sure. Let's get in there and just look at what that is. Let's just skip. Okay, here it is. So that extension you have dealt with in terms of what Mr. Schnapp said about extending that until the end of June. The question, though, Elaine, that is posed here is this. This is the question. What does it mean to be furloughed by your employer?
Right.
What does it mean, and is there a do and don't as it relates to this? Because for me, I put my hand up. We use another term in the past.
Oh, did you?
So let's go with the 2020 term.
Right, okay, so listen, I just apologise for this clock in the background if you can hear it, but it'll stop. It's going to chime 7 times because it's 7 o'clock.
Okay.
So what does it mean to be furloughed? So what it means is that if your employer no longer has any work for you because of COVID-19, so take, for example, a restaurant. You know, all the restaurants are closed. You work in the restaurant. There is no work because the restaurant is closed. But your employer believes that actually, when this is over, you will, he will have work for you, or she will have work for you. So they keep you on the books. You're laid off, basically, but you're kept on the books, if you understand what I mean. Then that's called furlough. That's called a furlough. And what the government will do with the job retention scheme is the employer then will say to the government, to HMRC again, these are my circumstances. These are the staff that I I need to furlough. And the government have said they will pay 80% of your wages for 3 months, up to a ceiling of £2,500. So it's 80% of your wages for 3 months, but it's now 4 months. It's now going on to the end of June, up to £2,500, and you'll get that from your employer. Now that's 80%. Now, if your employer is able to, and some employers are topping up the additional 20% if they're able to do that. So some are. So you may, if you're lucky, get 100% from your from the furlough scheme, from the job retention scheme. But while you are furloughed, you cannot work for that employer, because obviously the idea is that there's no work for you. So you can't take any work, you can't work at all for that employer during that period of time. So that's what furlough means in relation to what we are speaking about.
Okay. Thank you so much. Can I just kind of drop this in there? I know that there are churches around, Elaine, that have paid staff on their books.
Yeah.
But I am also mindful that some of the paid staff that they do have, in some quarters it's called get given a stipend. They're not all volunteers.
Yeah.
But you know, there is a contract in place.
Yes.
That also indicates an amount that will be paid to them.
Yes.
And it goes through that NI process, national insurance and PAYE.
Yeah.
Now,
So they're employees.
if they have been, that's right, if they've been furloughed, let's use a denomination then, because denomination means that it would have different, you know, more than one branch, different branches across England and Wales or across the United Kingdom. Now, in the event that they are office-based and they work in that capacity, should an invitation comes for that person with a rank title, and the rank title is either a reverend or a bishop or an ordained minister, but they have a reverend title, which is formally universally recognized. Now, should, for example, if they had a skill today, or they're knowledgeable about an aspect of what we're talking about, because there's something coming up in the question to do with churches, and they would have been able to say that. Would it then be seen if I extend an invitation for them to come on this platform, or to come and, to come and share, as we say in church, quote unquote, the word on a particular Sunday or Wednesday night Bible study? Would this affect them as being seen as still working, quote unquote? For the employer?
If they're not being paid by their employer, it's not paid work. They're not being paid by their employer. If they're doing this on a voluntary basis, then of course they can do that on a voluntary basis, because they're not being paid. They're not being paid by their employer. It's not work through the employer. It's work through someone else. I will say, and this is a little bit controversial. I think that actually there is nothing to stop you if you're furloughed, you can work for somebody else.
What?
Yes.
Okay.
And then maybe it's a loophole. You can't work for your current employer, but if you're furloughed because there's no work there, you can actually work for somebody else. It's a little bit controversial, and I think it's a little bit naughty.
Yeah, that is a loophole.
The government, the taxman's paying your wages, so it means that you're not working. But there is currently, maybe it's a loophole. They may well plug it. But currently that's the situation.
Okay. All right. I suppose we can move on over to let's go back to a question I think I missed to facilitate this conversation. And here it is. And it's, how will I know which package is available or suitable for me? And can I claim or apply for more than one?
Right. So how will you know? Well, the way that you will know is to do your research. And also there are a number of agencies that you can talk to support you, to help you to determine what it is, determine what you need to do in your particular circumstance. The Citizens Advice Bureau is brilliant. There is also Step Change Debt Charity. There is the Money Advice Service. I mean, you can call them and talk to them. But as I said, all of those agencies, if you go online, you will find links to really, really good and really easy to read information about the various packages, and you can determine what is right for you. So for instance, we talked about self-employed in businesses. We didn't talk about employed people, but we have in terms of the furlough.
Yes.
But we also spoke they would also be entitled to universal credit. Can you apply for one? Well, if you're a business, yes, because there's the business, all of the things that are available to businesses. If you're eligible, you can do it. You can get whatever you're able to get. So you will get a grant. You'll get the rate relief. You get the rate relief if you're in the particular industry. You will get the grant for the small business grant, and it could be 25,000 up to 25,000 if you are in the leisure industry. And you could also apply for a loan if you feel that you need to do so. So in those circumstances, yes, it's, look at the packages and decide what's good for you. What we are doing at PCU, maybe I'm preempting.
No, go ahead.
Later, but what we are doing at PCU is when our members who have loan accounts with us tell us that they are not able to pay their loan. We in the review, we do an account review. I'll tell you a bit about that later on. But as part of that review, we are offering this service to talk them through what packages are available and what might be best suited to them. So if they are or were employed, then we know what to tell them about. If there are small businesses, we know what to tell them about. If they are self-employed, we know what to tell them about, because there are those things there. We also have an excellent resource, even if I say so myself, on our website. We have a page dedicated to the economic packages that are available. So as I said, there's some really good stuff out there. So there are links to the different websites, the government website especially. Actually, it is the government information is actually quite easy to read. Actually, it's not too turgid. Actually, it's quite good. It's written in a way that it's quite easy to understand. Money Advice Service has got a really good information. Martin Lewis himself, if you are a fan of Martin Lewis's website, has got regular information about this. So there's a lot out there.
Excellent. Okay, I haven't seen any further question being posed so on this particular one. So I'm going to leave that one, and we're going to skip the furlough, and since that was addressed earlier, and we are now going to go to question 5, which is a bit redundant. Bear with me. It's here it goes. Here it is. It says the 6 is the 5 because the 5 was then amended. So sorry about that. What support is in place for my family and I if I have never had a job before the lockdown was enforced?
Right. So if you didn't have a job before the lockdown was enforced, and you hadn't been recently unemployed before the lockdown was enforced, then I would imagine that you would already be claiming universal credit. So there wouldn't be much change for you in relation to that, because your benefits aren't going to stop. They're going to continue to go. If you were made redundant, for instance, just before the lockdown, you could go, and this is entirely up to your employer, because your employer needs to decide whether or not they're actually going to apply for the funds for the furlough anyway. You could go back to your employer and you could ask your employer if they could consider putting you on their furlough list. They don't have to do that, but it is something that you could do if you had lost your job just before the lockdown.
That's very good news. That's very good to hear that. I personally didn't realize that, because there's just been such a gambit of information coming through, lots and lots and lots. So thank you so much, because I know a few families that I work with are in that situation as we speak. So I will pass that on to them. I haven't seen any extended questions, so I take it that everyone is satisfied with that answer. So we're going to move to the next question at this time. And that question comes now. And it says, what support is the credit union prepared to give?
Right, okay. So I can tell you what we're doing currently. As you know, this was a shock to everybody, but we're all in this together, and we are here to support our members as much as we can. So the process would be this, if I just talk you through it. If a member who has a loan contacts us and says to us, I'm not able to pay my loan, been made, I've been laid off, I'm unemployed, or my hours have been cut, or whatever it is, but it's affecting their ability to pay their loan. What we would do, first of all, is ask them to complete a new income and expenditure form, giving their new circumstances. Now, this is really, really important to do. First of all, we need to know what the circumstances are, what the new circumstances are, but also, and I think this is even more important, it then enables that member to focus on what the situation that they're in, and to look very carefully at what their resources are, and what their new situation will be, and list that down. And so that's a really good that's a really good exercise.
Yes.
Because that's all part of taking control, really, which is what, and when we're talking about what we would advise, staying in control as much as you're able to in this situation that is out of all our controls is something that's important. So you're starting to make a plan. When you do that, you're starting to make a plan. So and then we will say, we will then look at that. When you send that back to us, we will then look at that in relation to the arrangements you already have with us. And we then offer that member a one-to-one account review. So, and in that account review, we go through the income and expenditure details, but we go through those details in light of the various government packages. So we have, because we realise that a lot of people either don't know, they may know some bits, they don't know all bits, they may not know what they're entitled to. So what we do is we go through it and we'll say, things like, do you know that you're entitled to, your business might be entitled to this grant? Have you spoken to your employer about being furloughed? All of those things that might make a change to the ultimate income and expenditure information that we're looking at. And what will we do? Well, we're doing a range of things. We are, if the circumstance is right, we are giving payment holidays, up to 3 month payment holidays. That's what we are able to do. And we are doing that in certain circumstances. Some people are saying to us, some people don't want payment holidays, and they're saying they just want a reduction in the amount of their loan. We're arranging that too, where the circumstances are right, and we would do that anyway. Anybody, we don't normally give payment holidays. That's not a normal thing. That's quite new, but we will always talk to members about reduction in their repayments if they need them. So we're doing that in this case. Some people will elect to pay the interest only for a period of time. There's just lots of things that we can do. But the important thing is that we will listen and we will do. That if people are impacted by, their income is impacted by coronavirus, we will do that. The other thing that we will do then is we will then, after that, check in and offer regular account reviews. So that's not going to be your only conversation with us. I would say to you, or Shane would say, look, we'll talk again in 3 months' time. If it's 3 months, or we might talk again in 6 weeks' time, depending on what we've agreed at the end of those conversations. The important thing about that is that member then knows actually that we are on top of it. We are working with them. We will talk to them again. And people have found it really helpful. So that's what we're giving. That's what we're doing for our members. The other thing that we give loans. We're a finance house. We give loans. We're not actually at this time promoting lending in this way. Because it may not be the best thing to do. It's not that we won't give loans. We will if the circumstances call for it. But one of the things that we want our members to do, and we think it's really important to do, is to exhaust the government packages and initiatives that are there, rather than get into increased debt.
I agree.
In some cases, it will be necessary, and they will be able to repay the loan. But what we can't do, and we won't do as a responsible lender, is to make loans when actually the chances of it being repaid, or the due diligence around how they're able to repay, are slim, because that would get that would not help that person in the long run, and it wouldn't help us. So we are still lending, but we're not promoting lending in the same way, because we think that there are other things that we need to do first.
Okay. So thanks for that, Elaine. Would it then be safe to say that some of what you're doing for your current members of the credit union or your clients is being replicated by banks across England and Wales, that those of us on this platform are members of clients, we bank with those banks? Would it be a safe thing to say, or it's not likely, or should we be having that conversation? I certainly haven't seen anything come through from Barclays, but then hey, I mean, we could call them up and say, what are you doing for me?
Well, every lender, every regulated lender, responsible lender, in any circumstance, if you have a problem paying your loan, will go through the process of asking you. They will always ask you for an income and expenditure, to redo your income and expenditure form, and talk to you about and discuss with you a new payment arrangement. Right. However, I can't say this because I don't know what all other lenders. People have said to me that other lenders aren't doing this. What we are all doing additionally, and it's something we didn't do before because there wasn't the need necessarily for us to do before, but what we are doing now is actually having that account review on with the government packages, in line with the government packages, by saying to our members, do you know that this is there? Do you know that this is there? Are you applying for this? Have you thought about this? So that's additional and that's new. I don't know that if other lenders are doing that. And clearly not all of them are, because people have said to us that that this is not happening with their other lenders, but there may be some lenders out there who will be doing it. Yeah. I'd like to think other credit unions are doing it, but I don't really know. But we wouldn't normally do that, go to that extent, but these circumstances are very different.
Yes, of course. Okay, thank you so much. And so the advice on the back of this, everyone who's joined this platform, where we are looking at the government relief, financial relief for COVID-19, to get us back on our feet and to also manage, quote unquote, during this period of lockdown. We have brought on Elaine, for those who just join in maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes ago. We have Elaine representing the credit union, Pentecostal Credit Union, and there were questions posed earlier that she managed very well so far. What we are now going on to for, I guess, the final question before I kind of open this platform for you to contribute, if there is something that you want to tell us about that wasn't covered in the answers given by Elaine. We want to go back to Elaine in a short while to ask her about tips. Coping tips during this period. But one thing I just want to quickly say, it would worth checking with your bank as to what support, especially if you have a loan with them. If there is a loan that you have with them, then I'm going to ask that you check with them for the support that they can give. So maybe a holiday, you know, that you can take. And that, Elaine, I totally forgot that there is a question here centered around church. That was not entered on the slide, but it was something that did come up. What's out there for churches, for charity? Church is seen as a charity.
Charity, yeah.
Charity commission. What's out there for us?
Right. Well, the Chancellor announced, I think 3 days ago, a package of 750 million for charities. And these are charities which will include churches, those churches who have charitable status. And I think most churches do. Some don't, but I think most do. But it's those charities that are working in the community. It's not just for charities per se, but it's for charities who are at the moment working in the front line in the community to help people because of COVID. So it may be people who are visiting older people or providing support for older people in one way or another, shopping, contact, or providing food parcels, food banks, that kind of support, whatever the charity is doing. And I know a lot of churches are doing exactly that.
Yes.
So they will be eligible for that. There is this 750 million available. It was only announced 3 days ago. And so we don't quite know how that's going to be disseminated, except that I think that the National Lottery Community Fund will be a distributor of about half of it, something like that. And then the rest of it will be directly coming from the government. But we need more information. So for churches who are charities, that will be available. The Chancellor has also said that charities will also be able to access some of the benefits that are there for businesses.
Right.
So those charities, for instance, who may be paying little or no rates currently, they may be able to get a grant, the business grant of about £10,000. They'll be able to do that. The Sybil's loan, I'm not sure, because that seems very commercial, but if a charity is able to apply for a loan, and they may need one, I imagine that will be available to them. But the Chancellor has said that the business packages are available to charities, and also if they're employers, they can furlough their staff. Staff furloughed, they can apply for that. So that's what's available.
All right, thank you so much. When it comes on to this, on the side, where a church is in a rented premises. So the church is renting, maybe it could be from another church, it could be building a community building, maybe community center. I understand about the business rate, and you beautifully covered that earlier. But where that arrangement is not a part of the contract, there is no business rate, but there is a rent that is expected or a long-term hire charge.
Yes.
Is there anything that is in the provision for that, given that there's no business rate, that is being paid, but there is a whole overhead that the church is still carrying during this time? What can we do if we're in that position, Elaine?
Well, there is, if you are, and this is also for commercial businesses, they can speak to you can speak to your landlord about a 3-month, and it's not a holiday actually, because you are going to have to pay that rent. But if it is, if you are challenged with paying it because of COVID, you should be speaking to your landlord about having that 3-month relief, if you like, from rent payments. I'm not clear that landlords necessarily have to give it. What they can't do, certainly in terms of residential properties, what landlords can't do is apply to evict you for 3 months. They won't be able to do that. They can't start any eviction proceedings for 3 months. And in the cases of residential rents, the landlord might themselves be able to get a 3-month payment holiday from their mortgage provider. So that would be offset. But in terms of the commercial premises, what you should be doing is talking to your landlord about about a break, really,
Yes.
3 months.
Okay. There is something that has come through here, not on the platform, but through the WhatsApp that I have left open for people to either, notify me if there are any challenges. Something has come through here, and I'm going to read it for you now. The question is posed, if you are working with a company, I'll be generic. There is the company's named or the employer's named, but I'll be generic because I believe it may just affect others as well. If you're working with an employer, an organization, or a firm, and you received a letter to take 12 weeks off due to health problems, how do you get pay, or how much would you be paid? Do they pay you for the full 12 weeks? Or I will add on the back of that question that's ably posed by this individual on the platform, I would add on the back of that, is this then going to be regarded as statutory sick pay? Or is that going to be a part of how employers would have been managing, some employers managing employees being sick, and they would not just pay them the statutory sick pay, but they would have some sort of, in their contractual agreement, some clause in there that speak to that, while some will point blank, it's going to be statutory sick pay. And from when would that kick in if it's statutory sick pay? Because
well, first of all, because I think if I understood you right, the employer has said to the employee, take sick pay. Take sick pay. Is that what they were asked to do?
They send them a letter and ask them to take 12 weeks off due to health problems. So there are health problems that particular employer is aware of. It could be, plain devil's advocate here, it could be that the environment that this employee works in puts her at risk. She's in that risk category. And so the employer doing due diligence, due diligence is looking out for the staff, but maybe the clarity, which is a shortcoming now on the part of the employer, was not mentioned in the letter about pay. So, you're telling me to take 12 weeks off. I appreciate that you're looking out for me. It's in my best interest, but how am I going to survive? You haven't talked to me about pay.
That's very difficult for me to answer, to be honest with you, not knowing more about it. What I can say, from what I understand of the question, is that an employer can't really tell you to take sick pay if you're on sick leave if you're not sick. So, you need to be sick to take sick pay. So I'm not understanding that really.
Okay, all right. Let me bring some clarity then, because more is coming in. So using the NHS, government from the government, straight from the top, maybe the health person, the chief medical, you know who I'm talking, sorry, words failing me right now, but NHS then, let's go there. NHS, government has sent them, individuals, and I've heard this mentioned just in passing, from very early on. Oh, I got a letter that I shouldn't be at work for the next 12 weeks because, I have a particular health problem. Now, this is an individual, or these are individuals who are employed in the NHS.
Okay.
So where do we go with this?
Presumably, I'm assuming that what the employer is saying is you are at risk of getting this virus, and with your existing health problems, the chances, your risk of being very ill indeed is very high, and we feel that you shouldn't be at work at all. So, but then I would ask then, if you're not at work at all, then why aren't you being furloughed under those circumstances? What is actually, one of our members did have a similar situation, but she's been asked to work at home, actually. But her job allows her to work at home. I suppose there are some jobs that don't enable you to work at home if the employer's not able to ask you to work at home. So I would question, why then are they not being furloughed if in that case, if you expect them not to work, why are they not being furloughed? If they're not sick, you know, if they're not, are they being asked to self-isolate? Because actually,
No.
they're not being asked to, no, they're not been exposed to, because if you're exposed to COVID and you've been asked to self-isolate, you can go off sick for that reason. If you are off because you've been exposed to it and you have to self-isolate, that's considered to be sickness, and that's statutory sick pay, which is payable. Normally it's not payable to day 4, but actually it's now payable from day 1.
Yes,
so,
given the situation.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then yes, then that would be what you'd be entitled to get. But as I said, it really is about what the particular circumstances, I think.
Yes.
It
would be like my in-laws, Dr. Litchmore. It would be like what has happened, what they've been asked to do because of the age category that they're in. They've been asked, I think those letters went out during that time where they've been asked to stay because they see them as at risk. And for both my in-laws, they do have underlying health problems. So to speak. So with this worker, she is in that at-risk category. She is still employed, unlike my in-laws, but the letter came directly through government, but nothing has been said about her pay. So should it be a conversation that we're going to ask her to take, or ask anybody on this platform to ring up? Now it's time. Now we've had this conversation here, the big conversation about what is all this support about and the tricky things about it and what's straightforward, what's not straightforward. Would it be a good advice then, Elaine, to say, you know, ring your line manager, give them because this is worrying. You know, it's a question to rightly so. It is of concern. She has bills to pay, family to feed.
Then absolutely, she should speak to her employer.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. All right. I've checked and I haven't seen any additional question based on, you know, support that's out there, but we just want to encourage everybody, check with your bank, see what they're doing for you or intend to do for you if you haven't received anything yet. I think for me, I receive something to do with if I go over my overdraft. The overdraft facility that I have, if it's overdrawn past that facility, they would not be taking any daily interest rate or any cost in that would normally incur. I think up until June, the end of June, but other than that, they haven't discussed anything to do with mortgage. You know, do I want to have a break? So I would say have a conversation with your bank, and all major high street banks, they are managing that loan that Elaine spoke about. So again, it's also for a business owner or one who is working as a self-employed person, it would be a good time to check this out. On the back of this that I've just said, I just jogged my memory that for those who are in the education system and you own a nursery or you run a childminding, childminding is your forte, or you have an after-school or breakfast club, you are either seen as a limited company or sole trader. Now, for those who are at the lower ends, meaning your children, just a reminder, or if you did not know, or it was not confirmed by your local authority, what is out there for you is that if you're getting the funding for children who are ages 2 through to 4, plus the recently introduced 30 hours for those who are 3 years old and 4 years old after their third or fourth, their third birthday would have qualified. What is out there now is that they will continue. If you are closed and you had to close for staffing, or there was no frontline the children who need your services, if you are closed, then during this time, then the funding that was due for the summer term, which would start the 20th of April, it means that you will still get that. So if your local authority is saying something else, you should not accept it, because because this is coming directly from the Chancellor, and Department for Education has already sent those of us who are in lead position circulars concerning this particular issue. So if your local authority has not yet sent through anything to say, we are going to still pay the funding to you, then you need to start calling them up, sending an email out, because they shouldn't be withholding it from you. The other thing that is going to be necessary for you to know is that if your business rate, if you pay business rate, going back to what Elaine shared earlier, then you also benefit from that. If you have parents who are coming through and they're paying their way because for one reason or the other they did not qualify because of their earnings, and the child is 2 and under, and they do not readily get the 15 hours free early years education, then you're not charging your parents during this time, who would pay you directly. What the government has not put anything that is considered as legal for you not to charge them. But what they're asking for is to be sympathetic during this time and to access the business loans and the grants that are made available to you. Finally, on that point, if a parent is getting the child care element of the HMRC provision, and they're paying that to you, that should continue. But if they were topping that up because they were getting additional hours, even if the children are 3 or 4 years old and getting the free funding, that element of the childcare that is coming through HMRC, having mean tested them, should still be paid to you. But what you may then want to be sympathetic about is the fact that they were topping up what you have charged them. Because we're all in this together, but at the same time, personal circumstances will dictate. So there is no regulation, but what came through, and I checked again today from the Department for Education in my inbox again today, they still have not made a decision and have asked providers to make a charge to parents. We do know that if this thing lifts before the summer holiday kicks in, they will come back to us. But at the end of the day, the payment is not being received. The space has to be kept because they will not, well, we're hoping that they will not be going to another setting. And so if somebody then send through a request, can I have a space for my child? And you're then saying to them, well, we're full in that age group. You will be asking these questions. So what do I do? Because I'm not getting an income. I can't, access certain grants and loans, and I am really kind of low. I'm going to ask you please to have that conversation with your local authority, maybe the person who heads up your early years department in the local authority, and to have that conversation. I would like to do a part 2 of this in the near future, and I would be bringing on this platform someone from the local authority and someone from the Department for Education. And so please, I am going to ask you to, in the meantime, just have that conversation. All right, Elaine, let's go to that final thing now that I wanted you to look at, and then we will bring this to a close. And what tips, advice can you give us during this time of uncertainty?
Right, okay, so we do have a few things that we would say to our members. The very first thing, the very most important thing to say is that people, you really mustn't panic. It's a terribly anxious time. It's really, for some people, a very real challenge, and it's easy just to start to panic. But we really need to get into a calm place,
yes,
to take control and start to take control in this situation where we have no control, but we can control some things, and certainly around our finances. And these next things, these next points that I'm going to mention is all about taking control. It's all about having a plan, really, around what you need to do. So it comes as a shock. So, you've lost your job. Last week you had one, next week you don't. What do you do? So the first thing to do is to make a plan. And it means going back to your budget. If you don't have one, It means setting one in relation to your new financial circumstances. Have a look, have a very, very honest review of what you've got coming in and what you have to have going out. And when you're looking at what you have going out, you have to be focusing on those things that are essential. You know, we call them priority debts or priority payments. So things like your rent and your mortgage, your food, your council tax, those things are priorities. Those things have to be done. If you're paying for, TV, Netflix, Amazon Prime, those sorts of things, then you might need to think about, is that really essential at this time? But do that work. That's the first thing. So redo your budget. Then look at what you have in reserve. One of the problems we have actually in this country, I don't know what the stats are, is that most people don't have savings. That's a problem. And actually there's been nothing better. There's been no sharper focus on the need to have some savings than this experience of COVID, really, because this is a crisis. And that's what savings are about. Savings are about, really, you have your pot, you've got your long-term pot maybe for something in particular, but you should always have some money that you can fall back on if anything happens and you don't have it. So look at what you have, if you have it. How much have you got? How long is it going to last you? And where do you have it? Do you have it in a place where you can get easy and quick access to it? Or do you have it tied up in in some investments that means you can't get it for 3 months or 6 months or whatever? So all of those things are going to have to come into the pot. Then you will have a good sense of what your situation is. You then need to go to your lenders, your creditors, and let them know what the situation is. If there are, I didn't mention, you need to do the research around the government grants. By the way, comes there. Do your research. Go on those websites. Look at what you might be able to access. Try and access all of the things, to exhaust as far as you can, all the things that you can get access to. Go to your lender very, very quickly. Do not bury your head in the sand. Your lender can't do anything about it if they don't know that this is affecting you in this way. You can't know if COVID is affecting you in this way. You need to tell them. They can and they will help. There are some things that lenders can do. There are some things that they're not able to do. But most lenders will be looking to help you with your loan repayments. The mortgage holidays, I would just say, are only available to people who have good accounts. So if you have a good account with your lender, then you could be talking to them about mortgage holidays. If you already have arrears on your account, that's going to be more difficult to do. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be telling your lender. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be telling your lender that actually you can't keep up with with the arrangements that you already have. You need to let them know. They will make new arrangements with you. It's just that it may not be a mortgage holiday. So you need to do that. And one of the things that we say to people is try not to borrow, especially
I agree
from high cost, high interest lenders. If you have to borrow, or if you feel you need to borrow after you've gone through all of those things, try to go to a reputable and responsible lender and talk to them about what your situation is. No lender is going to be keen to lend to you if your prospects of repaying are poor. So you need to know that. No responsible lender, I should say, no responsible lender is likely to lend to you if your prospects of repaying a poor. A loan may not be the best thing for you to do. Some people think immediately, I need a loan. Well, no, maybe not, and there's more that we will do. So, and the other thing I think I would say about it is, with all of these things, this situation is so fluid. Things are changing all the time. You make your plans, but be prepared to change them.
That's right.
Be prepared to change them because things might change. And, we don't know what's going to happen. The other day I saw a report that said a quarter of all the businesses that have had to stop trading because of COVID actually will not be trading again. That's what I read. So, you know, you may need to think about when your employer has said, listen, I expect to be back in business. What happens if your employer is not back in business? I think it's always worth doing a worst case scenario when you're doing the planning. Now, you know, this whole process of planning, taking control, actually really does help to calm the situation, and you feel so much better when at least you know that as far as possible, you're on top or getting on top of what your stuff is all about. You know, we're all in it together, everybody, every single person, every business in some way or other is impacted by it. You know, some businesses, depending on what they do, are doing okay, you know, by it, because sometimes with crisis, there are businesses that can do well from it, but most people are feeling the pinch.
Yes, yes, definitely.
So,
Thank you.
so they would be our tip.
Yes. Well, you see, Elaine, some of the advice you have given, I am sure that these are things that we have done in the past. For some of them, nothing should stop us to continue with the good practice. And just want to ask you, in terms of budgeting, if one is not a member of your credit union,
Yes.
would that be something that you would be prepared to to support with can people ring you, call you, email you for after this, and they want to get in touch with you, are you open to that?
You know, I have to say, generally, I will say this. So generally, these services are available to our members. We make this, and and I would normally say yes, that's fine. But we are inundated. There is so much. There is so much going on, really, in terms of members telling us that they're not able to do this or whatever. But I don't want to lock it down altogether. What I would say is, if you're not a member of the credit union, but you are struggling, give us a call. You know, give us a call, say what your circumstances are. We do have, as I did say, we have that resource on our website. So look to that resource to see what help is out there. But if you really do need to talk about it, give us a call. Yeah, of course I'll speak to you. Why wouldn't I?
Okay, excellent.
Yes, you know, but yeah, why not?
I see it, something posed here. Okay, all right. Now, Elaine, we have almost exhausted our time, and you did really well managing. You could have stood beside Mr. Shanak and answer some of the very questions that the reporters so time and time again ask him in terms of unpacking, explaining what is it that you mean. Can you give us something more about it? So well done from the team and I at Dayspring, the members, and those who helped me to kind of brave it and put this on so that we can be in the know. What I want to quickly do at this time is to ask if you have any further questions, because I'm looking at part 2, but I want to specifically allow that part 2 to be what is reaching out to those who are in the education sector and at this time have quite a lot that they're dealing with, and the uncertainty to do with the additional income that they were getting. But it doesn't mean that if you would like to join in when the next one is being is scheduled, that I will say no, because you may just very well pick up, and maybe that will encourage you probably to go and now look into having your own child-minding business, your own early years business, or look into after school or breakfast club. Never know. But I want to encourage you, never give up or give in. It doesn't matter how your back is placed against the wall and it would look as if you're between a rock and a hard place. Don't give up, don't give in. I've been there too many times to know that just at that point where you're about to give up, give in, or to succumb to the pressure or what's going on, that's when the ray of sunshine comes through. You see, our journey through this life has never been easy. COVID-19, coronavirus, has brought on, more than we were already dealing with. And sometimes we have those moments when it looks as if the dreams that we had on paper, dreams that we were about to embark on, it would now look, with even an additional 3 weeks being given, or for us to stay indoors, taking us up into May, the first week in May, it would look as if those dreams are not going to happen. Maybe those dreams had a time frame. They had a time frame on them. And you're looking back and said, this should have happened in February. We're now in April. And for the way that things are looking, I don't see how best I can do that. Can I encourage you that maybe the avenue or the platform that you are going to use to birth out, or to allow that platform or avenue to carry that dream, at this time, to look at alternatives? What other way could I do this? This is my situation right here. And I'm not able to access a building right now. I'm not able to do this right now. But is there another way? Is there something else that I could look at, another avenue, another, or something that, could be in the temporary, represent what I am looking at in the future? Maybe coming as a forerunner to what you really want to do. Because you see, what this crisis or pandemic would want us to feel is that it's never going to get better and we're never going to come out. But that is not a thought to entertain during this time. See yourself coming out of this. See yourself rising above this. And if somebody did find that poem or verse about I will rise again, can't remember who wrote it, I would love for you, if you want to do a quick Google, but I would love for us to end, part of the ending to be that to be included in that you will rise again. You will definitely rise again. Things are not going as planned right now. We all have experienced some sort of setback before, and we're experiencing setback together, irrespective of culture, irrespective of nationality, irrespective of faith, irrespective of age. We're all in this together. It has brought us to a common place, and we can now move on from here with a common goal to say, I will rise up again. I will not succumb to this. My family member will not succumb to this. My children will not. This will not take them over, but we will rise again. We will come out of this. Because you see, a setback for me, having been there so many times in my life, a setback is a perfect scenario for a comeback. A setback is a perfect scenario for a comeback. You're down, but you're not out. Continue to be a fighter. You see, it's like a champion, get knocked down so many times, uppercut, lower cut, all sorts of cuts he's dealing with in that boxing ring. But he has determined and purpose that he will come out the winner. What's wrong with that 4:30 a.m. in the morning that I got up and I was training for this? Here is now the time, here is now the place. What about those contingency plans that you've put in place and said, should something happen to me, or should something went down with my business, this is what we will do? Is it then no time to pull that contingency plan to the forefront? I'm still waiting on somebody to indicate that they found that poem. And if you haven't before we close, which we'll do in 2 minutes, I'm going to ask you to send that to me, and so I can get it out as best as I can. But being the kind of role that I am in, I have taken off my education hat and I am now addressing you with the pastoral hat on. I want you not to leave before I pray for you. Brief prayer. So right where you are, you don't need to close your eyes. Right where you are. Father, I thank you so much for the opportunity to come together like this to support each other. There's so much uncertainties right now. Many families are grappling with illnesses, family members who have come down with COVID-19, family members who may have passed on. And Father, it is not looking good at this time. When we look across the nation, when we listen to the news, when we listen to the daily briefing, Father, it doesn't look as if things are getting better. But God, we know that you have the final say. We know that you know what is at the end of all of this. And we know that you are already working to restore things. We may not be able to see it. Our eyes may not be able to see that, but you are working. The fact that some of us have moved and worked amongst people with COVID-19 and we didn't come down with it tells me that you are doing what you know how to do best to protect us, God, especially those who are on the front line, the doctors, the nurses, the teachers, the supermarket workers, the cabin drivers, God, the delivery people, the postman and woman out there, the police, oh God, the scientists, the government, oh God Almighty, the health secretary, God, dealing with all of this, God Almighty. It tells me, God, that you are already working, that somebody somewhere has been praying, crying out and said, Lord, help, and you're indeed helping. So God, I thank you for the Pentecostal Credit Union, and I thank you for every person who came on here this afternoon, this evening, those who were not able to stay for the full time, but they did tap in. I thank you, God. And Father God, I pray now, as we say our goodbye from this platform, that, oh God, they will go, Father, with a renewed hope and a renewed, oh God Almighty, sense of I will make it. I will not go under, but I will make it. My family will make it. We will rise again from this. There will be a comeback from this. Thank you, God, for hearing our prayers now. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. God bless you guys. Thank you so much. And any questions, I'm going to leave this platform open. Send them through the chats. Write them. If it's for the part 2 that we're going to be looking at, I would definitely appreciate you putting those questions. If we need to get Elaine and one other bank coming alongside us, if I need to call on somebody from the health authority, to come and to answer a few questions. Again, we're all at home and they can write where they are. They can join in. And then finally, if you have nowhere to go on Sunday, if you're a Christian, you're a believer, and you have nowhere to go on Sunday in terms of a social media church, then I'm going to invite you. We have a lovely woman coming all the way from Florida. No, she's not taking the airplane. She's going to stay right where she is in Florida, and she is going to bring us some hope through the word. If you are sick or anyone in your family is sick, anyone you know, bring them onto the platform. We'll be Zooming it, we'll be Facebooking it, and we will definitely be YouTubing it. So it's a 3-way setup that's going to be happening, and I want to see some of you who are already accessing this to be here, just to continue to encourage each other, but in a different way and on a different platform. Thank you so much, Elaine. My heart goes out to you again on behalf of the leadership team at Dayspring, the members of Dayspring. I thank you so much for giving up your time to come and do this for us. And thank you for being to join us. You're more than welcome, Elaine. The platform is going to be left open, as I said, and I'm going to ask you to please send in a question. I will try and get you, if you would like the recording, the audio recording of this meeting, of this event, discussion that we've had, I'm going to ask you to leave in private, send me a private chat with your email address, and I can make it happen for you. Once it's uploaded or downloaded, I'm not too sure of the terms, then I will definitely send it on to you so that you can go back and unpack what was said. And again, maybe that would help the questioning, further questions that you may want to pose, and then we will try our best to be there for you. We are a small church with a big heart. Not small for long, I hear somebody said last week and some time ago, but we just want to be there for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're here now. Yes? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where am I? Oh, yeah, yeah. I'll keep it low. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm good.
I see in the here.
Oh, yeah.
I see in the morning. Okay.
Dave, did you know protein may be the cause of your arthritis and chronic joint pain?